Yeah. Ooh, she gets me every time. Welcome back, everybody, to the Nosebleed Sports Podcast. I'm Chris Witt. With me, as always, is Mr. Adam Schmidt, and we have probably our favorite guest. USA Today's Cincinnati Enquirer beat writer for the Cincinnati Reds, middle inning game commentator extraordinaire, and probably best of all, brand new papa, Mr. Bobby Nightengale Jr. How are you, sir?
Doing well. I'm going to tell Adam Baum you said I was favorite guest.
That's all
what
right.
What a diss the elder right there.
Yeah, that's all right. You go ahead and tell him. I'll tell him he's my favorite guest when he comes on too.
we almost had to have him on tonight as well because of the news that happened with Xavier basketball tonight. But anyway,
I will say, of all the news that broke this week, like you had all the Reds news, the Travis Steele thing shocked me more than anything Reds related.
The fact that they won is the craziest part of that whole thing. It's got to be the only thing that makes sense to me is there's a coach out there they didn't want to get away, so they went ahead and made it happen so they could start talking to that coach right now and making something happen. But that's for a different time, different world. Because I've got my thoughts on who it should be as a Xavier fan. But I don't know how much you know about it, but unless you got some intel.
No, just knowing Xavier's history and how they don't fire coaches, it just shocked me that they actually pulled the trigger.
They've never fired a coach in my 38 years of being alive.
Really?
Never fired a coach.
Wow.
Every coach is either left on their own for something better or just left, like Bob Sack. So no, never happened. So anyway, craziness on the Xavier front. But probably even more craziness on the Cincinnati Reds front, as I currently don't even know who our starting 9 are anymore. Starting 8. I don't even know who it is anymore. We've traded 90% of them away. So, Bobby, why don't we start off with going through these trades that just happened, how you feel, good, bad, or the other, starting with, I guess, the Sonny Gray trade.
Yeah, I mean, that one, I wouldn't call it a straight salary dump. They've done those in the past. Raisel Iglesias for, that one last offseason, straight salary dump. Tucker Barnhart, I mean, they were getting rid of that contract, giving that job to Tyler Stevenson anyway. That was a salary dump. I mean, the guy they got back, first-round pick last year's draft, they were planning to draft him if he was available when their next pick came up. So, I mean, it wasn't like they gave him away unnecessarily. Obviously, they wanted to get rid of the lower payroll. You freed up $10 million by losing Sonny Gray. But I also do think, knowing his injury history, knowing he's in the last guaranteed year of his contract, he's a club option. I didn't think the return was terrible. Obviously, it stinks for this year. It makes the 2022 team a lot worse, not having Sonny Gray. But I didn't think it was the worst trade in the world. Like I saw some people on social media, like, what were you thinking? But to me, it was, I could understand the reasons with payroll. Unfortunately, has to be a big consideration for a lot of the moves they're making. It's one hand tied behind their back.
Makes the 2022 team worse, makes the 2027 team better, maybe, right?
Right. I mean, it's a lottery ticket, but first-round picks usually have a good success rate of at least making it to the majors.
Yeah, I mean, a kid that throws like 95 to 100, from what I understand, and it sounds like he's got a huge upside, but he's 18 years old, so it's going to be a while before we see him, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was up to 102 miles an hour, so it's kind of like a Hunter Green type situation. He was drafted in 2016, and it's 2022, and this is going to be his first year, or maybe he's drafted 2017, and 2022 is going to be his first big league season. And that seems like, a success that it's happened as quickly as it did for a guy who had Tommy John surgery too. So, yes. I mean, you're talking at least 5 years probably before, unless he just is a complete stud and blows every expectation out of the water. You're talking about 5 years before best case scenario.
Yeah. Bobby, I got a question for you. Are you a White Sox kind of guy or a Black Sox kind of guy?
I like to mix it up, but I prefer black.
I'm a Black Sox guy too. Low below the ankle. I'm a below the ankle. Adam is just above the ankle. Or are you like the mid to high guy?
I'm like the mid to high. Like I used to be low, like yourself, but I hate when it slips down and you got to reach down to pick it. Like to me, that's
yeah. When it gets below the heel, oh, it's the worst. Underneath the shoe, I hate that.
You got to stick your whole hand inside the shoe and your foot still in it.
Oh, it's the worst thing. Take my shoe off most of the time. I gotta take it off most of the time. All right. So speaking of Hunter Green, this obviously is going to be the year that he's going to get an opportunity. But they bring in Mike Minor with the Amir Garrett trade, who's obviously going to be one of the starting pitchers. They would never make that move unless he's going to be part of the rotation. So is Hunter Green going to be the fifth starter on this team?
I mean, he's in competition for it. I don't think they're going to just give it to him outright. I mean, it's not like he completely dominated AAA last year. He did dominate AA for sure. But AAA, there were some struggles. So, I mean, if he has a good camp, if he earns it, I don't think there'll be any hesitation. Like, I don't think it's want to keep him down for service time. Like, I do think there's some developmental stuff with his off-speed pitches that have to happen. But he's one of the – there's a big competition for the fifth starter spot. He's as talented as any of them in the competition. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's his to lose, but definitely, like, at the forefront of that competition.
All right, so who are the front runners for that fifth spot?
Yeah, probably Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft, although he hasn't pitched at AAA at all yet, so he's probably a little bit lower on there. Reaver San Martin, he did 2 starts against the Pirates at the end of last season, left-hander. That's probably Justin Dunn they got from Seattle in the Winker and Suarez trade. He has a shoulder issue, so I mean he's a guy that maybe in like May I could see in the rotation, but probably not ready for the start of the season. So probably Green, Lodolo, some of the non-roster guys, like they have Zach Godley. Maybe he has a great camp, but it's hard. I mean, it's such a short camp. Starters only going to get 3-4 appearances in spring training games, let alone start. So I think the rotation is pretty much set. It's just I'm sure they'll give it a week or two before they say this guy is our number 5 starter. Maybe it'll just become clear. But I mean, just the fact you have such a short spring, I don't think there can be too many options you go to.
Yeah, that's the most exciting part of spring training for me and the start of this season now, since probably wins are going to be hard to come by. Maybe is the Nick Lodolo Hunter Green thing. I was actually excited to maybe possibly see both of them in the rotation this year, but with Mike Minor, the addition of Mike Minor. But inevitably there are always injuries or guys that don't perform well after a while, and they got to make a change. So I imagine. Do you imagine we see both at some point this year in the rotation?
I do. I mean, assuming both of them are healthy, like you mentioned. I mean, no team goes an entire 162 with only 5 starters. Usually, you need 8 or 9. So at some point, I do think you're going to see them both. And also, Brandon Williamson, that's kind of he's the main guy they got back for the Winker Suarez trade. He's rated just as highly as Lodolo and Green. Another left-hander, played at TCU, a former college teammate of Lodolo, but a top 100 prospect. So, I mean, you're looking at those 3, and then Graham Ashcraft is kind of the 4th, a little bit behind them just because he hasn't pitched to AAA yet. But you have 4 starters that 3 of them are rated top 100 prospects. The 4th is kind of on the edge of that. The prospects are prospects for a reason. But if you look at if half of them become impact big league starters, that's huge for the rotation, especially since they're keeping Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray for at least the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Okay, so we have an idea about so we talked about the trades. We have an idea about the guys that are going to be in the starting rotation. The outfield is because let's before we even do that, really the infield's kind of easy, right? You're going to have Joey Votto, Jonathan India, Moustakas at third, and then is Barrero the guy at shortstop for sure, or is there I guess between he and Farmer, is that still a battle, or are they going to give it to Barrero, or what?
It'll be a battle, but I think just going into the season, I mean, the expectations, obviously, the team still has high expectations, but realistically, I mean, this is going to be a rebuilding year, or at least a transition year. So I think you got to see what you have with Jose Barrero, no matter what. I mean, if it's not shortstop, you have to start him every day instead of, like, he needs to be an everyday starter at some position. And for me, if you have a good shortstop, if he has all-star potential, this is the time to figure it out when the team's not expected to be a World Series contender. So to me, he's the front runner to get it. David Bell says Kyle Farmer and Barrero's going to have to earn his way. But if Barrero is as good as everyone thinks he is, I do think he'll earn it, and I do think he'll be your everyday shortstop at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so you mentioned very briefly that if he's not, he may get an opportunity in the outfield. So okay, Jesse Winker's gone, Nick Castellanos is gone. Is next? Is Nick Sanzell going to be healthy? Is it going to be Barrero in center field?
Shogo's had the hamstring injury. Is he healthy enough to come back yet? Who's the outfield?
Yeah, all those guys are healthy. I mean, Sanzell, I think, is your starting center fielder. Right field, probably Tyler Naquin. Left field, Jake Fraley is the guy who they got back from the Mariners in the Winker trade. He's very good against hitting right-handed pitching, not very good against hitting left-handers. So probably like a platoon there. Maybe RC Aquino gets some at-bats. I think Shogo right now, he's probably starting as like the fifth outfielder, which when you have a DH in the league is a low place to be. You know, he's going to have to earn his way back. The problem with him is, and he admits as much. I mean, he hasn't hit. And if you're not, especially if you're going to have 0 homers, you have to be a guy that gets on base, a 400 on base percentage. And he hasn't been that. So until he hits, I mean, he's a fine defender. Teammates like him, but it's just one of those, you have to be able to hit your way into the lineup, and he hasn't done that yet. So to me, the outfield is Fraley, Sanzell, Naquin, Aquino figure into it. And I think they'll add an outfielder. You know, it's a weak outfield on paper. You know, Sanzell and Naquin especially have long injury histories. Yeah, so I definitely think they'll add to that at some point before opening day.
Bobby, you recently got married over the last year and a half now, a couple years?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Are you a gold ring kind of guy? Do you go with the metal, one of the other metals that are like a silverish color, or one of the new trend of the rubber ring?
No, I'm a silver guy.
Yeah, all right. Nice.
All right.
Well done.
I'm a flesh guy. Flesh color.
Oh goodness. All right. So how long is Bell? So Bell's obviously going to be here for the next couple of years during this transition. Is he shown or proven in any way that once this transition or rebuild is done, that they're going to continue with him throughout? Do you think his stay here will be longer than the next 2 years?
Well, I think it depends how the next 2 years go. He's under contract for the next 2 years.
That's what
you know, expectations are a little bit lower now. I mean, I don't feel like the fan base is expecting them to be a playoff team this year, but say they overachieve, you know, that bodes well for him. He has history as like a farm director with the Giants, so he's used to working with young players. I mean, I think that's an advantage for him. But I mean, a lot of it just depends. I mean, if these guys develop, if the organization's moving upwards over the next couple of years, you know, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo are at the top of your rotation, and you know, there's a lot of things to build around. India Stevenson, you know, I definitely think they'd keep going with it. I just think it depends on how the young guys do over the next couple of years.
All right, so we didn't touch yet on the bullpen really. After they traded Amir Garrett, and for some reason I was thinking Mike Minor might have been pitching in the bullpen for Kansas City, but he was a starter. So one left-hander's out. Who's replacing him in the bullpen, and who are we looking at in this Reds bullpen this year?
It's a great question. It doesn't look good on paper. I mean, I'll put it that it started bad last year, and it feels that way again until Kroll's mentioned a bunch of times in the past few days that they're going to add to it. So I wouldn't be shocked if they sign a free agent or just two to help out. But like Lucas Sims is back, Luis Sessa, who's excellent after the trade from the Yankees last year. Justin Wilson's a left-hander, veteran guy, struggled last year, but was okay with the Reds, just didn't pitch in big situations. Art Warren, he was really good, and he was hurt for part of the season, but really good when he wasn't hurt. Jeff Hoffman will be back. Tony Santillan, if he's not in the rotation, he looked like he was pretty good in the bullpen, kind of had that bulldog mentality.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's a lot of question marks. I mean, you're talking the guys I listed. I mean, half of them are, don't have much experience in the bullpen. So, it could be an ugly year if they don't add at least a couple arms there.
Well, they've got plenty of room in the cat or the whatever you call it now in the budget, I guess.
The budget. No, they just got the budget. Yeah, that's what Nick Kroll was just saying. We just got ourselves to budget. They're where they need to be now. So now I guess it's pretty much, I don't know what to think after that. If we're at budget right now, bud, we're gonna be struggling for the next couple of years for sure.
See, that was the thing that I was confused about with the Amir Garrett trade was I know he's arbitration eligible. You're gonna have to pay him, but Mike Minor's making $10 million a year this year, right? I mean, I was kind of confused about getting rid of some of these bigger salaries and then bringing on Mike Minor, who's fine. He's not a bad pitcher or anything like that, but he's 34. He's making $10 million a year. I thought we were going in the opposite direction here. I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of different move than the last two. I mean, they added payroll for this trade. But I think part of it is one, he's a guy he's kind of like a workhorse guy. I mean, he's going to make 20 some starts. Usually he's been durable, 150 to 200 innings for a team that's going to rely on like Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo threw 50 innings last year. Hunter Green, I think maxed out at 110. So, I mean, those guys they're not going to throw 200 innings this year. You're going to have injuries. So I think it was important for depth, important for saying, we don't have to open opening day with 3 prospects in our major league rotation. And if they get hit around, we have nothing else to do but, kind of watch them get hit. So I think it's one, you kind of force them to earn their spots in the big leagues, which they will. I mean, they're talented. So that'll come. And also just, he's going to eat innings for you. But I think that's kind of the main takeaways is just, he does provide some things. And also, he pitched in college under Derek Johnson. He went to Vanderbilt. He kind of fits like the high spin rate type guys that they targeted. So, I mean, if he has a great first half, wouldn't be shocked if he's on the trade market, if the team's struggling, and you try to trade him for good prospects at the trade deadline too.
Yeah, because this is his only year here, right? The following year, I think next year, he would there's like a $13 million club option or something like that, right? I can't imagine they keep him around for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could see them keeping him is if trade deadline, somehow they're in the playoff race, and you just play out the season. But to me, I mean, if this is a 4th place team, you have to trade him at the trade deadline.
Yeah. I'm sure that you get in your Twitter replies way more than I even see the fan base going nuts about wanting Bob Castellini to sell the team and all this stuff. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. So I think that's good. We think the same thing here, I think. I'm trying now. I don't know why, honestly, but I'm naturally trying to come up with a way to defend Bob Castellini or Nick Kroll. I mean, I guess maybe that's my question. Is Bob Castellini going to Nick Kroll and saying, we need to cut this by this much. This is our number we need to get to. Do whatever you need to do that. And then Nick Kroll has the bad job of having to trade away all these guys that fans love and are productive players for 18-year-olds that aren't going to be ready for a while and that kind of thing. Is that the way it's going?
Yeah, I mean, there's a budget, and every team has their own. Unfortunately, for some reason, I mean, the Reds going into 2020, they signed Castellanos, signed Miley, Shogo and Moustakis. Payroll at that time was supposed to be like 145 million that year. Pandemic hit, 60-game season, no fans, completely backtracked. I mean, you went from all in 2020 to dismantling this team in 2022. Unfortunately, I mean, that's a payroll issue. It's lower now. I mean, I think it's probably around 100. I can't imagine it was 120 last year. Can't imagine it's above 110. So yeah, I mean, I think people judge kind of the moves that Nick Krall has made, but a lot of them have been hand behind your back. Like, it doesn't make your team better. And Nick Krall, I don't think he's tried to make the argument the other way that like putting Wade Miley on waivers was a baseball move that was going to help the team win more games. Trading Tucker Barnhart for a low A player, in a perfect world, you keep him around and, maybe Tyler Stevenson's the starter, but it's not like you can't have a good backup. So, I mean, there was a lot of moves this offseason that it was payroll related. I mean, even like Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez, in a perfect world, after an 83 win season, you don't have to trade away and maybe you lose Castellanos as a free agent, but it's not like you have to tear down the roster. But unfortunately, I mean, a big part of the Seattle Mariners trade was if you can get out of Suarez's contract, then you're able to do kind of these things where you sign a trade for Mike Minor, sign a Donovan Solano, and you have some more money to spend on other free agents and try to fill holes that way. But unfortunately, that's kind of just the way it was with Castellini. It's just he went from all in to now they don't want to spend.
It's the way the Reds. If you're a Reds fan, you just got to know that that's how it's going to be. We're not the Yankees. We're not the Dodgers. We're not going to have a $300 million payroll. It's not going to happen. And if you think that they should be doing that, then you don't understand how the Reds organization has to do business, right? So I don't like the fact that everybody's trying to get rid of. I like Bob Castellini. I think he really did, like you said, he went all in 2020, and that was the team. He's going to get, when he gets close, he'll put money into it. But unfortunately, as Reds fans, Zach Cozart out here apologizing to Reds fans. He hasn't played here in 76 years. Him and his little donkey that he got from Votto. I don't like that. I don't think he's got any room to say anything. I get maybe he didn't want to leave. Nobody wants to leave, but it's business and you have to run it like a business. And until everybody understands that, you can't just sign people because they're your favorites, like Billy Hamilton. This guy over here wish we would have gave Billy Hamilton a 20-year, $200,000 million contract because he could steal base every now and then.
Well, to me, that's the weird thing is like he went from the last rebuild, like he kept Frazier too long. He kept a lot of these guys too long. I mean, it zapped their trade value. Billy Hamilton, I think Bob Castellini's admitted it. Like, I didn't want the front office to trade him because I wanted our fans to be able to see them. I don't know what's changed from that Bob Castellini. That's like, we need fan value. We got to have those guys to, now you're without Sonny Gray, Eugenio Suarez, Jesse Winker, Amir Garrett, like these very popular faces. But I'd also say, like, I understand the fan sentiment. Like, I understand sell the team and the frustration behind it. But I also would counter with the Reds had a league average payroll the last 3 years. It wasn't like you look at Pittsburgh. I mean, their payroll is like $40 million. Cleveland's like 60. Miami's is always really low. Like there's a very further bottom that this could have gone. Nick Krall, by saying they have more room to spend, that means it's still going to stay around 100. Now, the frustrating part is this was a playoff team in 2020, an 83-win team in 2021 that was the first team out of the playoffs. Why can't you add to it? Why can't you build it? You still have a bright future. You just could have spent the next 2 years, and then, as Green and Lodolo and those guys come in, payroll could naturally go down when those guys earn starting spots. Why that couldn't happen, I don't know. That's the frustrating part. But I also think it could be a lot worse. Like I don't think they're tanking. I don't think they're going into this 10-year rebuild. Like they're not going to lose 110 games like the Orioles and the Pirates do, and stay that way for year after year while building up draft picks. I do think it could be they're bad for 2 years. And then you have all the young guys in your rotation you want. You still have Jonathan India. You still have Tyler Stevenson. It sucks timing wise for Joey Votto's career. Finally has a great season, and then the team takes a step backwards. But I understand all the sentiments. I think it could be a lot worse. So I'm kind of like in the middle of it.
So you mentioned that you don't know what happened to the old Bob Castellini with keeping some players too long. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. Could one thing that maybe change a fellow like Bob Castellini in odor be the fact that they just went through this lockout, and maybe that's enough to put in his brain, okay, I need to run this more like a business and not so much a fan sentiment kind of team?
No, because I think they were headed that way. I think the biggest thing that changed was the pandemic. I mean, everyone lost money. Obviously, the money they're losing is not relative to what the average person, how badly they were affected by the pandemic. But you don't become that level of millionaires and billionaires by accepting losing money. So I think that was kind of like a course correction for, probably a lot of companies and a lot of people. And unfortunately, he's treating it that way. I just think the frustrating thing is you had that rebuild already. Fans were frustrated from 2014 to 2019. 2020, that was a really good team on paper. They couldn't hit all year in the 60-game season. But if they could hit, that was a great pitching staff with Bauer, Castillo, Gray at the top. So I just think the timing of it was what killed the Reds. No one could have predicted a pandemic, but it's a frustrating reaction to it when, it's not like you're losing money by owning a baseball team either.
Sure. Now, Bobby, I got to ask you. So 2 months old, I believe, somewhere around that. I remember seeing a little picture of a little baby foot or a baby hand on the old tweet box from you.
Yeah, 6 weeks.
Huggies, Pampers, or other?
Other. We've been using Honest.
Oh, the Honest. Nice. Yeah. Nice. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm terrible. I don't remember diapers. Thankfully for me, are about 4 years in the past. And trying not to think about them anymore, but I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Chris might be closer to wearing diapers than his kids are at this point.
Probably. Yeah, probably. How is the little one, man? Is everything going good? You getting sleep as a new dad?
No sleep, but otherwise everything else has been great. Healthy baby, so healthy parents, but coming to Arizona was nice to be able to sleep for a change.
I bet your wife is so happy that you're in Arizona right now.
Loves my answers.
Yes, I guarantee it. Oh goodness. So lockout, man. What did you do during the lockout?
Yeah, I mean, just the timing of the baby. It's like, for me personally, it was perfect because it was just like, I had 6 weeks leave anyway, so took the 6 weeks off, and it lined up perfectly when the time to come out here was. I was going to come out here anyway for this week, so now it's just a longer stay than usual. But it was perfect for me, just having 6 weeks where I could take work off and not feel guilty about it. Like there was no trades that could go down, so, or no free agent signings, so no worries about breaking news.
So I'm sitting. I get the paper. I get the paper again. Been getting it now for a few weeks, maybe a couple months. And I was telling my dad, I'm like, there's hardly any Bobby stuff in here anywhere. It's all what's his name, Charlie
Goldsmith. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all Charlie Gold. I'm like, what is going on? I never even thought about the fact that you got to take a little leave, man. That's good. Take some time out for that little thing.
Yeah, I was in hiding.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I do not blame you there.
He's been hard at work the last week, though. I'll tell you that much.
No doubt.
Yeah, we're making up for the 99-day lockout.
There's no doubt about that. You got to put 3 and 4 stories together a night, I'm sure.
Well, the tough thing now is like, you don't like, oh, I'd like to write this story today. And it's like, well, I'm nervous that person will be traded, or a trade will make that irrelevant anyway. So might as well wait.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you expect any more trades to happen? Is anybody else at least significant going to be traded off this team, do you think?
I think it's possible. I mean, Carl said Luis Castillo and Tyler Mahle will not be traded. So, I mean, those were the two guys that carry the most value. But, maybe say, like, I wouldn't be shocked if, like, say, they gave the job to Jose Barrero and that made Kyle Farmer available on the trade market or someone like that. I mean, just someone who found themselves out of a camp competition. But I don't expect any like blockbusters like Gino Suarez and Jesse Winker. That was a major one. I don't see another one that just, unless Joey Votto demanded a trade, kind of shocking the fan base like that.
Which he kind of answered that question the other day. That he was very classy about handling the way they're doing this, like basically going through another rebuild and trading off all those guys that gave him a chance to win any games. But yeah, he's never demanded a trade. He said he's never even thought about it. He's maintained all his entire career, even in the bad years, that he's locked in for Cincinnati. Like I don't know. It seems to me like a Hall of Fame caliber player, why he would be so invested in Cincinnati. But
well, I'm going to tell you a big part of that. If you are a Hall of Fame caliber player and you've had an MVP, but you've never won a World Series, you really never even won a playoff series. And what is one thing that kind of gives you another little bump, right? Staying with the same team for your entire career. That kind of separates people sometimes. There are very few people that do that are Hall of Famers. So maybe that's part of it. He's like, well, that gives me just that little bit more of an edge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it has to do with this Hall of Fame case necessarily, but I do think it matters. Like, I've only worn one jersey in my entire career. I am the face of the Reds for the last 15 years. Like, I owe it as a responsibility to see this thing through in Cincinnati. I do think that exists on some level, just kind of like a responsibility to the team and the city to say, you guys stuck with me all these years. I'm going to stick with you.
He's an old school kind of cat. And I agree with you on that. He's, one of those guys. It's like my word is my bond. You know what I mean? Like you signed me to this contract, and I'm not going anywhere. And he's just not going to go anywhere. So I'm glad because I love Joey Votto, and not just him on the field, which is amazing. And he was ahead of the game when it came to on base percentage and all that stuff. And ahead of the fan base. And I used to hate that more than anything when people would get on him. But he's also one of the funniest guys I've ever seen interviewed.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he's unpredictable, I think, in the best way. Like, the players that go through the cliches and, the boring team answers. But he's a guy that definitely can take it to a tangent and, he surprises you. I mean, you ask a question and you generally don't know where he's going to take it sometimes, which I think is fun from a fan perspective.
Are you guys doing Zoom interviews this year? You guys get back into a press conference area, or what are they going to do this year for the writers?
Yeah, we've been back on the clubhouse for the last few days, so
nice.
back to normal.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it makes your job easier. I assume doing the Zoom stuff is. It gets a little sketchy on the catch back and forth and all that. So I hate listening to those interviews, the post-game interviews on Zoom. It just doesn't seem natural. So I'm happy that you guys are back to it. It's got to make your job easier.
Yeah, 100%. Like spring training, especially, just because that's like the games don't matter. Like it's kind of a relationship building time. But I think the most important thing is on Zoom, every writer that covers the Reds, every TV station, we're working with the same interview. Like you can only repackage a 5-minute interview so many ways. Now it's like there's a variety of stories. What you read in MLB.com is going to be different than what you read in the Inquirer, different than what you read in the Athletic. Same thing with the TV stations. So I think that's the biggest difference is we can have different types of stories, more variety, different things for fans to like, I think. Than just kind of your cookie cutter, what's on Zoom. Everyone's going to be using the same quotes. So that part was frustrating the last couple of years because it's not like you can make a story stand out when you're all working with the same stuff.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Bobby. So I think we did this last year. A number for wins that you think. This is way harder, I feel like, this year. Do you have a record or a number of wins you're thinking?
I mean, it's hard now just because you don't know what the roster is going to look like tomorrow or even in a week. But I'd say like 74 and 88. I think that would be. It's kind of my expectation at this time.
I'm going to tell you what, Bobby, I think the Reds are going to come out, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. I'm feeling really good with going with about 76 wins.
Here's the thing. I don't feel qualified to make a prediction because I predicted the Bengals to win 3 games last year.
You did.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like the equivalent of that would be like saying they're going to win, 50 games or something like that. And hopefully they'll be way better than that. But honestly, I'm not sure how much better than that.
When you think about their pitching staff, though, their starting pitching really isn't that bad. I mean, they've got a decent. Uh-oh. What do we do? You still there?
Got me.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Something popped up.
Right.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, their starting pitching staff really isn't that bad. So I mean, you can win games depending on how long he lets some of those guys go. Obviously, the bullpen, we've been at it before where you got a great starting pitching staff, and when it gets to the bullpen, everybody's crossing their fingers and toes and everything else they can cross, hoping that something goes right. But having a good starting pitching staff, and I mean, their infield can hit outside. I mean, you don't know where Barrero's going to be really, but we know Naquin can carry a team for a week if he needs to. So I feel pretty good about this team not being in the cellar, of the Central.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I was describing it to someone the other day, like there's always a wave of injuries at some point during the season. I think that's going to crush them. Like when injuries hit, they don't have the depth that they used to. That's going to, put the season in the tank. But I do think there'll be like a month where the Reds are going to have a great month just because like you'll see India play really well. You'll see Votto do well. The starting rotation, like you said, if they build a few starts up together, I wouldn't be shocked if there's like by June, they're still hovering around 500 and then injuries hit and then the season goes down the hill. But I do think they're capable of playing like short spurts, high quality baseball. I just think it's with the depth where they're at, the bullpen, it's not going to be sustainable for 162.
I think they'll win 78 or even 80 games if Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green are co-rookies of the year in the National League.
Yeah.
And Votto's the MVP.
There you go. Well, good luck with that.
I will say,
right.
last year, the rookies, I mean, India won Rookie of the Year, but like Sanzell, when he came up, looked good. Gutierrez, a lot of those guys performed well as rookies, not just India. I mean, that's a good sign when those guys come up and they're ready to go.
Yeah, I totally agree. So the only thing we have left to do here before we let you go is our Mount Rushmore this week.
Did you tell them about it? Do you know about the Mount Rushmore? Did you have time to think about it? This is a tough one.
This is all I thought about all day.
Someone earlier today. So it is the Mount Rushmore of colors. Just colors like the rainbow or whatever. So Bobby, would you like to go as our guest? Would you like to go first? What are your top 4 colors?
Well, I want to go. You guys go first because I have 2 different theories on how this could have gone, and so I want to see what you guys do and see if I followed your lead or not.
Well, to answer your question right up front, yes, black counts as a color, white counts as a color, all shades of gray, anything that people tell you is not a color is a color in this one.
In the Nosebleed Sports Podcast, we accept anything that is a shade or whatever as a color.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is what I was considering is like, do you want the 4 to like match? You know what I mean? Do you want like it to be an accentuated 4, or
Listen,
just talking like
you're talking about
4
like
different
brick
presidents?
red, like brick red, bright red,
forest green, seafoam green, that kind of stuff.
No, this is your Mount Rushmore colors. This is your favorite colors. I mean, it could be poop green and scarlet orange and scarlet red, or scarlet's red, right? Yeah. It could be anything you want it to be.
Okay.
There are no limitations on the Nosebleed Sports Podcast Mount Rushmore segment. But if you want us to go first, Adam, jump on, bub.
Black's my favorite color. And then I've got gray. I don't know what that says. I got a dark soul, maybe.
Bland. You're such a bland person.
Maybe I'm just a dark guy. Black, gray, purple, which I'm well represented with my shirt today. And then my fourth, it's between white and red, and I'm gonna go red for the Cincinnati Reds. Those are my four.
All right, so mine very similar. Blue's my favorite color, has been since I was a kid. The old Musketeers, and I thought about taking this into a different direction and going like with the colors that have the names that you can't even pronounce. I was gonna go through the 124 crayon box. Oh, timeout before we start.
Oh, here we go.
Crayon or crayon?
Or crown.
Crayon.
Thank
Oh,
you.
God.
Thank you. Oh, you mean you pronounce it correctly? Oh, good job, Bobby.
I get made fun of all the time because I call it a crayon. Potato, man.
How's it spelled?
I
How
don't
do
know.
you spell crayon?
I don't know. How do you spell xylophone? There's an X at the beginning. I mean, how do you lamb? Lamb, it's not lamb, but it's just a lamb. There's a lamb over there. Just because I just don't pronounce the O. It's a crayon.
With a Y?
That's AYN. CRAY.
Crane.
Crayon.
Cran would be CRAN. Anyway, like your favorite berry is cranberry. All right.
So blue, my Xavier Musketeers. I've been a fan of the color blue my entire life. Number two, I have orange. I like orange and black in anything. And I don't know if it's because of the Bengals, but I don't know what it is about orange and black. But like if I'm going somewhere, I've got 4 or 5 orange hats and orange shirts that I'll wear orange, black hat, black shorts, orange t-shirt, or switch it up. I love orange. Red for the Cincinnati Redlegs. And I'm with you, Bud. Purple for my Panthers.
Okay. I don't have purple, so I hope elder people don't attack me for that.
You'll be all right. You work with enough of them, though.
Make sure this gets better.
My 4, orange,
Yes.
red.
Uh-oh.
Not pandering to the Reds crowd, but I like red. Dark blue, or you almost think it's black, but it's blue.
Oh, the real dark navy. I like that.
That would be my 5th, by the way. I like that one.
And then I'll go Kelly green.
I love it. Kelly green.
I think that's the official color of the Boston Celtics, I believe.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
And the almost black, that's like my favorite. My wife hates it because she doesn't think you can wear navy blue and black, but I wear my Boston Red Sox hat all the time with a black t-shirt, and she can't stand it. I can't tell the difference. It looks basically black to me. So I don't know the difference, but she can't stand it. I like those, Bobby. Those are good, man. Those are good.
Thank you. I thought all
Very
day
good.
on it, so.
You had to put your deadline back for a story. Right,
Right, exactly.
There you go. All right, Bobby. Well then, last question before we leave. Who's Xavier basketball's new head coach?
Oh, no. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
See, I assume they're going to go a Xavier guy. But if it was me, I'd go Denzel Valentine, the Loyola coach.
Oh,
Like
Up and
that.
comer, former player.
yeah, I didn't realize Denzel Valentine was their coach.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've not been paying attention. I kind of liked him as a player.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What's the guy's name? BJ McKee. BJ McKee. I've heard his name out there. What was the other guy I was looking for earlier? I mean, besides Sean Miller, Pat Kelsey, guys like that. I mean, Pat Kelsey, I would love to see Pat Kelsey there. Elder guy and Xavier guy. That'd get any better than that right there. That'd get any better than that.
My number one pick.
Sean Miller, though. Have you ever in your life seen a college basketball coach leave a program and then come back?
Did Pitino do that?
No, because he was at Kentucky and then he left Kentucky.
That's right. Yeah, Louisville. Yeah. Yes, probably not, right? I mean, unless like a small school, not like a Xavier level, but like a true small school.
Yeah, D2, something like that, or junior. I mean, yeah, something like that. But I don't know, man. I can't see Sean Miller doing it. But apparently, there's rumors he's been spotted on campus. He's the number one coaching candidate out there. As long as all that FBI baggage is behind him,
That's the big thing.
I'm totally in, man. I'll bring him back. I don't know why he'd want to come back to Xavier after getting all that money from Arizona. He ain't gonna make that here, that's for sure.
Well, he's not making any right now. So
That's true. That's true.
So the true very last question. I'm sorry to add another one here. Your pick for NCAA champ.
I like that.
See, Gonzaga's the popular team, so I don't want to pick them. Arizona's got flaws. I mean, they all have flaws. I might go Kansas. Or no, I'll go Baylor. I'll go Baylor repeat.
Ooh,
Okay.
Baylor repeat. They're missing 2 of their top 5 scorers right now, aren't they?
I know they're missing at least one guy. Yeah, they're not sure if he's. But I mean, they've been missing him for a while. I think he's missed the last 6 or 7 games at least, or something like that. So, but they're really good defensively and stuff. That's not a bad pick.
I like it.
Not a bad pick at all.
I like it. All right, Bobby. Hey, I'm sure you got a FaceTime. Oh, no, she's asleep by now. Did you get the
Yeah,
FaceTime
exactly.
before she went to bed at least and say goodnight?
I had to do this. I couldn't.
Oh,
You guys are my priority.
Don't do that. Don't put that on us. Don't put that on us.
Oh, all right. Our deepest apologies to your wife and daughter.
And daughter, absolutely. Bobby, once again, man, we appreciate everything you do when you come on. You're so gracious with your time. I look forward to talking to you throughout the season.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Hopefully it's not as busy as this week, but always enjoy being on here.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
man.
so much, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Have a good one, buddy.
Yeah, same to you guys.
All right. See you. The
Bobby,
best.
Bobby Nightengale, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you what, that guy right there, he so gracious with his time. He is he's a good, he knows so much, and he's so the best part about him when he's talking about the Reds is he's not like a diehard Reds fan.
Yeah.
So when he tells you that something kind of disappointed him or he didn't understand something, that's coming from the perspective of an outsider who follows the team to follow the team, which is the best thing for a fan to hear. So you know when you're just being a fanboy, or if what you're saying is what everybody else would be thinking too. So
His reasoning is not clouded by bias. He's an objective kind of third party sort of thing. Now I'm sure he has. I think we talked to him about that. I'm sure you develop some relationships and stuff, and you kind of have a little attachment to the team because of that, because you're around them every day. But you're right. He didn't grow up here. He didn't watch the Reds for the first 20 whatever years of his life. I agree. He's always excellent. Does a great job on Cincinnati.com, by the way. Check out, subscribe.
Didn't talk about his tweet box, his Twitter or anything either.
At-
Man, I'm so bad at that.
At Nightingale Jr.
At Nightingale Jr.
Follow him on Twitter. I gotta stop pointing. Put your hands down. Follow him on Twitter. Check out, subscribe. It's really cheap to subscribe to Cincinnati.com. Get the app on your phone. It's like $2 a month or $1 or $3.
$3,
something like that.
I mean, it's $10. It's $3 is when you first subscribe, and then it jumps to 10 after 6 months or something like that. But still,
They
$10
always have
is-
deals.
Yeah, you always have deals. I have the whole week long paper for $17 with an online subscription. Cost me $17 a month. So I mean, and I get to have a physical paper in my hand, which is my favorite thing in the entire world.
I kind of miss that.
I love it.
miss it.
I love it.
Well, once in a while I'll be at the store and I see like a little stack, It used to be they used to have stacks and stacks. Now they've got a little stack, and it's like somebody, 2 people buy a paper a day probably. But, once in a while, I think about grabbing one. But anyway, thank you so much to Bobby Nightengale. Awesome stuff as always, and he's always cool about joining us with the with the Mount Rushmore stuff.
I love that they get into the Mount Rushmore. Him and Adam we talked about this. Baum. Him and Adam Baum both do a great job of helping getting into the Mount Rushmore and the little silly things that we do here on the podcast when they join us. So hopefully the sound is good, because we couldn't get the sound to work in the beginning, so we have no microphones. We're just talking into an iPad right now.
You know what? There are some professional podcasts with people with producers and sound guys and stuff, and they do it this way too sometimes. So I think we're okay.
All right.
We're gonna be all right. All right, so we have our next thing. You know what? I feel like we were talking about this at the end with Bobby. Maybe we should go right into the Xavier thing. I just want to ask you some questions because Travis Steele, and look, for people who are not from Cincinnati, listening to this from other parts of the country and the world, this might not be exciting for you, but Xavier basketball, which Chris, the reason the wall is blue behind us is because of Xavier basketball. Chris is a lifelong season ticket holder, and Travis Steele, their coach, was mutually agreed to part ways.
Mutually agreed to part ways.
And
I tell you, because we've been talking about it, no Xavier coach has ever been fired. He was fired today.
Do you think so? Well,
if they mutually agree to part ways, that means you were going to get fired, but you said, you know what, I quit. And then you say, you know what? Okay, I guess we both agree that you're no longer the coach. Guess what? Chris Mack got fired. They mutually agreed to split ways.
I think so.
They were going to fire Chris Mack at the end of the season anyway, and he knew it. So
Most successful coach ever at this. Well, okay.
At Louisville?
No, at Louisville. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about when he was at Xavier.
No.
I was like,
never
left.
Xavier's never fired a head coach since I've been alive.
Well, look, they still haven't.
Well,
Because
this dude's fired. Travis Steele got fired. Just like Chris Mack got fired at Louisville. Mutually depart. Guess what? If the school, that means the school doesn't want you to coach for them anymore. You got fired.
There was a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy stuff behind the scenes, I think, that was happening in Louisville. I agree with you almost every time when somebody says that, that's the case. They were fired. From what I understand, there's some stuff at Louisville that Chris Mack was like, you know what? I'm done with this.
Well,
so maybe it was a little more.
And he lost the team too. The team was having interviews basically saying they didn't want to play for the coach in no specific words, but that's basically how the kids' interviews were going. I mean, he had lost the team.
Okay, so maybe that was maybe he basically
plus
fired.
Like you said, it's Louisville, man. That if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So I'm not saying Mac is an angel when it comes to that stuff, but maybe he was like, I don't know if I'm prepared to go that far.
Yeah, I got you.
That's all speculation. I apologize.
So my question is, it was a little surprising. It was a little surprising that Travis Steele, at least to me and to some other people that I heard talk about it, that he was fired. Not super surprising because I need to stop even talking about the fan base on Twitter, but they've been going nuts the last couple of weeks, especially last week, the way the season ended, about him maybe not being the best fit anymore for Xavier. The biggest question for me is why right now, when they just won their first round NIT game and they're getting ready to play again Sunday, because it's the NIT, is it like, who cares? It doesn't matter when it happens? Or it's just weird to me that they only have at best another 2 weeks to play basketball.
That's the biggest thing to me. That's what surprised me. I kind of felt Steele was getting fired. I mean, his February for his 4 years is horrible. Just to go over this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They lost 8 of their last 10 games before they beat Cleveland State the other day. And that is not a good Cleveland State team. I mean, they're good enough to make the NIT, so it's good for them. But that is not a team that Xavier should just barely squeak by, and they barely squeaked by. They did not play a very good game. They've lost 8 out of their last 10, but going into that game, he had lost the fan base. He had lost the team. 4 straight years not going to the NCAA tournament is unacceptable.
Especially for where Xavier got.
Where Xavier was, I mean, from the time I started watching, I can't remember a time that we missed 4 straight. I mean, there was a point in time where we went to like 7 out of 10 Sweet 16s. Like we were as I mean, for the last 30 years, we have been a staple in the NCAA tournament until the last 4 years. And I think that's the biggest part. Now, him being fired right now after a win in the NIT, the only thing that makes sense is they got rid of him so they can start. There's coaches out there right now that are available that they need to go out and try to get that they believe they have a chance at, and they want to go make bids at, and they can't do it. You can't talk to a coach like, hey, what do you think? If I get rid of my guy, will you come? You know what I mean? That's not a good way to go up to him. It's like, listen, we got rid of him now because I think you're our guy. That's a totally different conversation. And it makes somebody feel like you believe in them, and that's why something happened. So that's my thought process. Who that guy is, I don't know.
That's my next question. So early, like almost right away, the big name is Sean Miller. Everybody's talking about
He's
Sean
the number
Miller.
1 coaching prospect out there right now for anybody.
You also have another guy that's available, probably a little less likely because it's still pretty new, is Chris Mack. Chris Mack is not working right now. He's a really, really, really good coach, the most successful coach at Xavier. Yeah, Pat Kelsey. We talked about that last week and this week. That's our favorite pick, I would say. This was his first year at Charleston, and they weren't too great yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to get his guys in there and get his everything established there. I think they're going to be. He took Winthrop to another level. I think he'll do that at Charleston, but he's still, like you said, he's a Cincinnati guy. Played at Xavier. Long, coached under Mack, coach under Prosser. Big ties Dix, and is a great coach. A lot of people talk about him as one of the best young coaches in the game. Besides those 3, and if Mack's even an option that anybody's going to talk about, anybody else? I mean, Jonas Hayes has taken over for now for the rest of this, right? That's his name, right?
Jonas Hayes, yeah.
Has taken over for the rest of the NIT. Any chance that he is looked at? Because they usually hire from within. Right?
For as long as I've been around, outside of Thad Matta, they have always hired from within. Sean Miller was an assistant under Skip Prosser, if I'm not mistaken, or he was an assistant under Thad Matta. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. But once again, hired from within. He was under Thad Matta. You got Mack, who was under Sean Miller. You got Mack, who was under Skip Prosser. You had Mack, who was a Xavier player. You had Steele, that was under both Sean Miller, and he was like a video coordinator or something like that, or manager or something. And he was under Chris Mack, obviously. Jonas Hayes, I'd be fine with that. And Dante Jackson, Dante Jackson is a name that I'm surprised I haven't heard yet.
Me too.
The thing about Dante Jackson is him and Travis Steele were close. So when you fire a guy like that in the middle, what does that do to a guy like Dante Jackson? But he's a Xavier guy, right? He played at Xavier, a 4-year starter, 3-year starter, came off the bench, played a lot his freshman year. But so I don't know how that feels in his gut. Then again, the way, the type of guy Travis Steele is, he's probably like, listen, don't you worry about me, man. Dante, you get an opportunity to take this, go get it. Jonas Hayes is a big Georgia Bulldog guy. And from what I understand, Georgia might be in the mix of looking for a coach this year as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got an opportunity at a place like Georgia or found himself getting closer to something like that. all his stuff on. It's all Atlanta Falcons and Georgia Bulldogs, and that's his whole everything on his Twitter is all about that. So I don't. It's hard. This is the one time I feel like Xavier in the A10. You know, they're in the MCC. They had Pete Gillen in the MCC. They get to the A10 under Skip Prosser, who was under Gillen before that. They go to Thad Matta and Sean Miller and all these young guys in the A10. And then they get to the Big East under Chris Mack, and they hire from within, and it didn't work. They're in the Big East now, and that almost makes me feel like it's time to get away from the Xavier way of hiring from within and keeping the culture. Maybe it's time to go after a proven coach. The thing is 2 of the top 5 coaches out there right now are Xavier guys. We're Xavier guys. So you could do both by going with a Mac or a Miller or a Pat Kelsey, who has proved himself as a Division I college basketball coach and is a Xavier guy. So you can still keep that Xavier culture, the Xavier way, but go after a proven commodity. That's what I'd like to see. That's what I like to see. The problem is the pay. It's the money, man. It's the money.
I mean, it would be a step up. That would be a step up for Kelsey for sure. I would imagine
it would be 100%.
Big step backwards, I'm sure, for Sean Miller and for Chris Mack. But neither of them are coaching right now. I'm sure they'd like to be coaching. And from what I understand,
it's a power conference. You have, I mean, in football you got the Power 5, in basketball you have the Power 6, right? I mean, the Big East is a basketball conference, and you got Villanova, and this year Providence, who somehow is a 4 seed, and Nova's a 2 seed. And Providence is the best team in the Big East. I don't know how that happened. But I mean, there's good teams that come out of this. It's not like Villanova is Gonzaga and they're in some, I mean, we get 6 or 7 teams in the tournament out of 10 every year consistently. We're as good as any of when we play the Big 10, when we play the Big 12 or SEC. I think it's the SEC or Big 10 and those little things that we do with them. Early early season games. The Big East, 90% of the time, wins that series. Maybe not wins 90% of the games, but they win the series against them. So I feel like they're just as big. So is it moving that far back? Maybe pay-wise for a guy like Sean Miller, but you're still going to play in a really good conference. You have to play really good competition. You've got another Hall of Fame head coach that's going to be better than you anyway. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Jay Wright is a better coach than Sean Miller.
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah.
So you're not going to be the best coach in the league, no matter who you bring in. Right. So it's not like you're like, oh, well, I'm big time here. I am the best coach in the Big East. You're not going to be the best coach in the Big East, no matter who we bring.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's all I got.
I was, to support what you're saying there, I was hearing Rick Roaring talk about that earlier today, is if you bring in a guy like they even mentioned Cleveland State's coach, like a young guy that's another one of those kind of Pat Kelsey type guys, a young up and coming coach that everybody's impressed with, but is still a little green. You bring in a guy like that, nice hire, but Jay Wright's not worried about you. He's not worried about Xavier. He's not worried about you. If you bring in a guy like Sean Miller or Chris Mack, Jay Wright's like, ooh, okay. All right, so Xavier's going to be back with us now.
Yep.
So yeah, and I'm sure there are probably names that I can't think of right now. Other guys that are maybe close to that level of a Sean Miller or a Chris Mack or whoever the best available guys are. And we may see. It would be fun to see Xavier hire. I love that about Xavier, that they always stick with their guys. Anybody with ties and anybody that's been coaching in that system, in that order, at the school for a while. I like that. I think you're right, though. You got to go for the biggest you have established, because you've had so much success over the last 20, 25, 30 years. you have made yourself what used to be thought of maybe in the MCC as a mid-major.
Even as the A10, they were mid-major in the A10.
Yes. Once you dominated the A10 enough times and got into the Big East and played really well and won the Big East once or twice, right?
Once.
Now you're a major basketball school, and that if you want to maintain that, you don't want to end up in the middle to bottom part of the Big East every year. I think you've got to go for the biggest hire you can possibly get.
I totally agree. The problem is the money. We're not a state school. We're not Arizona. We're not North Carolina. We're not UConn. We don't have the money to pay that right. We've got a sponsor, the guy who owns Home City Ice, the head coach of Xavier basketball. His title is the Settler family Xavier basketball head coach. That's his title. That's how he's announced that's how they announce him. The Settler family head basketball coach for the Xavier Musketeers, because they pay such a huge part of his salary that they get to name it that they're like, hey, I'm going to pay, $3 million of his salary, of his $4 million salary. Guess what? You're going to call it the Settler family head coach. But that's the point is without that, obviously they can't afford to pay a guy like that. So,
well, the reason that they can pay for that is because of the great work you did while you were working at Home City Ice.
Oh, well, they lost money on me. They lost money on me. I cost the Settler family more money than they ever paid me in that 6 months that I drove a truck for them flying. They slipped it.
They seem to be okay.
Yeah, they'll be all right. They'll be all right. They're still cleaning up ice out on Route 50 on the way out to Versailles.
Oh God! Thank God you're here with us right now, because that was a crazy day. All right, so we got to leave Xavier basketball at that, but stay in college basketball, because we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, because the best part about this, I mean, there are a million basketball shows with all the experts and everything. Watch those. We're going to tell you who we think our Final Four is and our champion is.
Yep, I like it, and I'm going to let you start it off. I didn't write this down, so I got to kind of go back over it. I got to tell you, because of the fact Xavier has not been in the NCAA tournament in 4 years. Remember, you guys know this. I am a 7, 8, 9 bracket kind of guy. So I fill a ton of brackets out. This will be the second straight year I only will fill out one bracket.
Wow.
Second straight year.
So far, I'm on 5 and 1 women's. I filled out a
Did you do women's? Yeah, good for you.
Yep. Okay, so my Final Four, and I'm just gonna randomly pick one of the 5 because I try to fill them out a little bit differently every time.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going this. Oh boy, this is so boring. It's so boring when you just pick a bunch of number ones. I'm going Gonzaga.
Okay.
Baylor, which is Bobby's pick to win it. Villanova, who you just said is a horrible basketball team, the worst basketball team in the Big East.
I did not say that.
Oh, Providence would beat them by 30 or 40, I think you said. Villanova and Kansas.
Okay, I like that. Do you want to give us your champion?
I will, and I will tell you that I don't feel confident about any 4 of those. This has been such a wide open season.
Yeah.
We've had a bunch of numbers. Same thing happened last year.
Arizona and Gonzaga have kind of held their own at the top, but they both have lost in the same week.
Yep. A bunch of other Auburn lost and then lost like 4 of their next 6. I mean, there are 10 or 12 teams, I think, that could be, maybe not that many, but close to it, that could legitimately win a national championship. Because nobody, I don't think is dominant. I'm putting Gonzaga and Villanova in the championship game, and then I'm gonna go Gonzaga. I'll be honest, that's a heart pick.
Yeah, you love the Zags. Yeah, I love Mark Few and the Zags. I like that. I'm good with that.
I need them to win one, and I need it to be this.
So I'm gonna tell you this. Out of the West, I'm gonna take Duke. There's something about this Coach K final team that once again, it's a hard thing, man. I want, as much as you can hate Duke all you want, there's something special about this being Coach K's last term. I mean, that's special, right? Every game is going to mean so much. And when they played North Carolina in his last home game, that was, they lost. And he came out and got on the mic and was apologizing. They never should have lost. And I think that team, they were up by 5, I think, at halftime. And North Carolina, they gave North Carolina the chance to go, shoot, only 5 at half, man. They should, they came out and did their thing. So maybe the emotion got too much. Maybe they couldn't play through the emotion, however you want to call it. Hopefully they figure that part out. I feel good about Coach K and Duke coming out of the West. Now, out of the East, directly below it, that's a tough one. I think Baylor's with Baylor's injuries, and I'm not going to lie to you, there's a little, this is a little foreshadowing, but I like this Kentucky team. I think they've got some really, really good talent, and that transfer from West Virginia, she can't say his name because I don't.
Shigwe, I think.
Yeah, Shigwe. That transfer from West Virginia is a dominant big man.
Love watching that guy play.
He is really fun to watch. And I'm gonna take Kentucky. So I got 2 number 2 seeds. Continuing on to the bottom right bracket in the Midwest, I'm going Kansas. I really like this Kansas team. I think they can play with anybody. They obviously continue their dominance over everyone in the Big 12. They're the Villanova of the Big East. Or I should say Villanova is the Kansas for the Big East to the Big 12. So I mean, I have a lot of upsets that I would take, but in the end, I'm going with another number 2 seed in the Final Four with the Villanova Wildcats. Something about the way Jay Wright coaches when he gets here, man. They've got enough talent. They're not the best. It's not the best Nova team he's ever had, but they've got talent. And the way parity is, I'll take them. So I've got Nova, Kansas, Kentucky, and Duke. Kentucky and Duke playing in the Final Four. How great is that?
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods. I work with so many Kentucky fans that I will sometimes just randomly shoot a text to some of them with a picture of Christian Laettner just to ruin their day. Just to ruin their day.
Boy,
I've never seen people hate a person as much as Kentucky fans
that cuts deep.
hate Christian Laettner.
Yeah, well, I do too, but I'm not a Kentucky fan.
Yeah, well, there you go. All right, so in that game, as much as I hate to do it, I'm going with Coach K, man. Coach K is going to the national championship in his last year, and I'm going to take Kansas. It'll be Kansas and Duke, and I'm taking Coach K to go all the way, win the very last game he ever coaches, and hold the trophy high for his sixth national championship in 527 years he's been at Duke.
I love it. I hope you're right. I would love to see that. Love Coach K. I know a lot of people don't, and a lot of people hate Duke, and I don't hate Duke. I like Duke. I would love to see that. It would be awesome. And I'll tell you what, in another bracket that I filled out, I had Kentucky winning the whole thing. I'm right there with you. Another bracket I filled out, it might have even been that one. I had all 4 number 2 seeds, which, by the way, a number 2 seed has not made it to the championship game in like 5 years or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But and then a number 1 seed has been at least in the Final Four of the championship game every year for the last 5 or something like that. Just saw those 2 things today. So anyway, look, we're recording this on a Wednesday night. Tomorrow is NCAA tournament Thursday. I mean, I structured my week for work around this, so that I can make sure I work from home both Thursday and Friday this week. And but I certainly won't be watching any games until all of my work is completed.
Absolutely.
And I log off, because I definitely, I'm going to make sure I
gotta take care of business
don't
first.
do it.
Yeah, of course. No, of course.
All right. So speaking of Mr. Ed,
Speaking of Mr. Ed,
Nobody's gonna get that reference.
A horse is a horse, of course.
You got it, but nobody else watching will. Except my dad. They'll get it.
Yep.
He watches. Shout out, Dad. I think we have one more thing, right?
We have one more thing. We have Mr. Ryan Long, White Immigrant.
That's the name of the comedy special on YouTube.
Yep. So if you watch this guy, if you watch his like YouTube channel that he's got, this dude talks about it all. So if you are woke or whatever they call it these days, if you got it and if you get offended by stepping over the line comedy, not towing the line, stepping over the line comedy, then you'll be offended by this and don't watch it. If you can take a joke and you realize when somebody's joking, I could not suggest this comedy special enough.
Speaking of going over the line, before we talk about this, I'm seeing Mark Normand in person this weekend.
Nice.
I got to make sure to tell you about it.
We'll talk about that next week. Absolutely. We'll talk about that next week.
So, another New York guy, Ryan Long.
He's a Canada guy. He's from Canada.
From Canada. Yep.
From Canada in New York. A lot of white talk. Black. He talks about white people and stuff a lot. He does a really funny thing about for the boys and some silly stuff way.
Some like fake misogynistic stuff.
Fake misogynistic, fake racist. It's all, none of it is real. Like you have to understand, you can understand when you hear him.
Yeah.
He's not being real. He's like, it's all sarcasm, and his timing's pretty good. He's not bad. So, I always look at some of these and it's like, all right, man, that joke could have been a little bit better if you just didn't rush it, right? And I kept feeling like at times he was starting to rush, but I think he did everything the way he needed. I thought it was pretty well put together. I didn't write anything down of the jokes, but I can tell you that I laughed pretty hard quite a few times.
Good.
This was a surprise for me. I never heard of the guy. I feel like I've seen him. He looks like Bam Margera.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right.
He looks like Bam Margera with lighter hair. So that was, for me, that's the first thing I saw when I saw him.
Good call.
But I'm going to tell you right now, he's hilarious. I gave it a 4.3.
Wow.
I went pretty high on this. But listen, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you can't take a joke, don't watch it. There's no point, because he's a lot of racial sarcasm. There's a lot of misogynistic sarcasm, but it's sarcasm, right? It's not real. It's not real. And if you can't laugh at some of that stuff, then don't watch it. But if you are able to laugh at it because it's just a joke, a ton of gay stuff in there, talks a lot of gay stuff, which is, to me, is hilarious. I like when somebody jokes about themselves and can make gay jokes about themselves as well as other stuff. And he does a really good job. He did a really good job. I liked it a lot.
Okay, so I have a bunch of stuff to say about this. So
yeah.
The number one thing, I just want to start with this. The number one thing that jumped out at me about this whole special, the very first graphic, the very first credit at the end when it was over, the very first word of the first graphic was spelled incorrectly.
Well,
that jumped out. It's written. It had one T in it. It was written, edited, directed, and edited by Ryan Long. Written. I noticed immediately. I'm like,
well, I'll tell you what.
Oh, that's crazy.
He edited that.
He lost all credibility.
He edited that because the editing's terrible. Every once in a while, they throw to this side camera and there's a waitress standing in front of it holding drinks. Why did you jump to that camera? He had 5 cameras set up. Stop going to the camera when there's a waitress standing in front of it.
Yeah, he definitely did. And I think he does this for all his videos that he makes too, his skits and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
His man on the street stuff. Anyway, besides that, this was about 45 minutes long. I'll be honest, the first 30 minutes of this thing, I was like, yeah,
Really?
okay.
Oh man.
The last 15 got me going.
Yeah.
The last 15, for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was the mood I was in, maybe I don't know, maybe I ate a cookie at the 30-minute mark or something like that. Something got me going. And I wrote some things down and I definitely laughed. He did something that reminded me of a Zach Galifianakis joke, actually. It was very simple, but he just said, have you guys been keeping up with this COVID-19 thing?
Yeah.
Zach,
I know, right?
Yeah. This is so funny. He said he started a group. It's called it's a woke group. It's called Whites Against Whites. It's like no black people allowed.
No black
obviously.
people allowed, obviously. That's the racial sarcasm. Like, come on, like don't get upset with him because he said that. Right.
That's so funny.
That's a good one though. A woke group, whites against whites, no black others. That's funny. That's funny.
That's really funny. And then so there was, I think, this woman from India in the crowd, and he was like, talking to her for a second, and he's like, India has the highest rate of domestic violence, but before you judge her people, they also have the highest rate of their wives misbehaving. So sort of a chicken and egg thing. that tag at the end, so sort of a chicken and egg thing, really got me. That was perfect.
The Egyptian thing with the Egyptian when he goes, what are you like, got a little Greek or something going on? And the guy's like, no, Egyptian. His girlfriend yells out, he's Greek too. That was hilarious because he didn't let that go for a minute, and he did a good little number with that, and then came back to it when he was talking about kinky stuff that girls are into. He's like, I'm gonna have a Greek tonight and then an Egyptian tonight.
All right, so the last part of this was really good for me. The first, I think, just because the first 2/3 of this thing for some reason just didn't hit me right, I gave it a 3.3.
Ooh.
I'm double thinking it now because
No, don't do that. Don't do it. Keep it.
All right, we're a bit. This is as far,
far as we've been in a long
A whole
time.
point. A whole.
Yep.
I mean, a whole hop.
A whole hop. A whole hop.
3.3 ha's and 4.3 for you. I'm glad you loved it though. This guy is funny. He is funny. And you're right. He should get someone a little more professional to edit the thing and correct this.
Yes,
but
probably.
yeah, but well done by him. He's a funny guy. So for next week, we have, I think you have a comedy special.
Yep.
And I've got to come up with something better than colors. I mean, that's hard to do. Wait a minute. Did I write? I think I thought of something. I didn't write it down. Okay, so of course I forgot it.
I've got mine. I know what I'm gonna do for. There was 2 of them on here that I wanted to go after, and I'm not going earthquake. I'm going Miss Pat. Y'all want to hear something crazy? Because if everybody knows, we talked about the Bert Kreischer, the cabin, and Miss Pat was the star of the show. Poor Kelly Cuoco was. Oh my God, that poor girl didn't know what hit her when she ended up with Miss Pat. Miss Pat had no problem telling that little rich white girl what she thought at all times. Made Kelly Cuoco feel as uncomfortable, I bet, as she's ever felt in any situation.
I'm sure. And Miss Pat is not uncomfortable in it. Well, except when she's got to get wet.
Yeah, when she's got they put her on a float in the middle of the water or whatever.
That was. I gotta go back and watch that again.
Hey, Ryan Seacrest. Oh, hey, look, Precious is here. And they've never met each other, apparently. That's so great. It is Ryan. What you got, Ryan Seacrest?
So good. All right. So good. Miss Pat. That's on Netflix. Y'all want to hear something funny? So I have to come up with I can't believe I forgot this ahead of time. Okay. So we've done colors.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like we've done all the simple stuff. But we haven't. There's a million Mount Rushmores out there that we just haven't thought of yet. I'm going the Mount Rushmore of.
I've got one in my head. I mean, it goes with the colors thing. You can do a Mount Rushmore.
Okay, Mount Rushmore of races.
Egyptian is number 1 on mine. Egyptian is number 1. No, I was gonna say shapes. See, I'm starting to get a little vague here.
Man, there are so many. I mean, but how many? I feel like there are endless shapes. I mean, oh boy. I mean, that would be. I gotta do something.
Okay.
Let me do the Mount Rushmore. You know, I'm thinking about stores, like retail stores, but that's not. You can't just do retail stores. That's way too broad.
Mm-hmm.
We've done restaurants, I'm sure.
Yep.
We've done.
Well, we've done fast food restaurants. I don't know that we've ever done like restaurants.
Yeah, I don't need very many real restaurants.
Yeah, Adam would go Skyline, Oh, those are fast food, I guess. So.
Yeah. You know, Wild Mike's is one. No. All right. Seriously, Mount Rushmore of. Let's go back to sports. I'm going back to sports.
It's the easiest way to do it, man. It's the easiest way to go.
Mount Rushmore of. Now I kind of want to do something with wrestling again. By the way, our dearly departed segment starts right now.
Okay.
R.I.P. Scott Hall / Razor Ramon.
What? I did not hear Scott Hall kicked it, huh?
Scott Hall kicked
That dude's been pushing the limit here for quite a while.
I'll tell you.
Thought he was dead 10 years ago.
God bless the man. But when my brother texted me yesterday and said, "How about Scott Hall?" I said, "I'll be honest. Thought he already got it."
I done already killed him probably once or twice.
All right, that's a perfect cue for me to come up with something off my dumb brain. I can't think of a Mount Rushmore. I'm going Mount Rushmore of 90s.
I like it. 90s.
NBA coaches.
Wow. That's a good one. Well, Greg Popovich is one for you.
I mean, we haven't even talked. How have I not talked about that? Congratulations, Pop. All right, congratulations, Pop, on becoming the all-time winningest coach in NBA history. I've been in heaven for the last few days, just going through Twitter, looking at all the Spurs Twitter stuff, all the videos, all the memories, all the stuff when he's making fun of Tim Duncan, which he just did again. He said today I'd have reached it a lot sooner if Timmy would have played better or something. I mean, just such a funny guy, such an old grumpy guy, but such a funny guy.
Yep. Your typical Bill Belichick, horrible with the media, but super funny that everywhere else. So yeah, I love it. All right, so we're gonna go Miss Pat, and we're gonna go 90s NBA basketball coaches.
Yep, that'll be it.
I love it.
We've done coaches,
just never 90s.
Specifically 90s NBA.
I like it. All right. Well, until next week, don't forget to turn your headlights on.